After further review with myself, Slick Rick, and with me as always, Kaylin. And we're brought to you by Going for Two. Shane couldn't make it again today because he's driving back from Ottawa, apparently.
Well,
And
that sucks for you, right? Because I mean, isn't that the game that you lost some money on or something? Is that what I was reading?
I could have won a parlay on a parlay if they had won in overtime, but I was happy for him that he got to see a good game. But what a bummer to go all that way and have them not beat Ottawa.
Yeah, yeah.
But let's jump into some hockey. We got lots to cover today again here. We'll start off with hockey. Start off in the West because Edmonton is picking up some steam. And before you know it, they're only 6 points out of first place in the division. And Jack Campbell remember how to play hockey.
Well, remember, it's still Jack Campbell, right? Like, what are you saying that this is hinging on? Is it hinging on the fact that the offense is clicking lines 1 through 3 because their fourth line is still what their fourth line is? Or is it that Jack Campbell is the one that's saving the day for them right now? Because if I'm looking at it and having to say Jack Campbell's going to be the answer, I'm a little nervous.
Well, when you pay a guy for 5 years at fucking $7 million a year almost, you'd expect him to be the answer once in a while.
Oh,
but I don't think he's the answer. But he's like, if you look at his stats at the beginning of the year, he had like 1988 Grant Fuhr numbers, and that would have worked then.
Hold on. I just saw something in the chat here. It's Shane, chiming in. He's on the road, of course, got to be doing his talking. He picked the Kraken money line tonight. You know the Kraken are playing tonight, right?
Who are they playing? No, I don't know.
Playing the Devils tonight. Yeah. Is this a shot fired?
I did know that. Actually.
Is this a shot fired to what's going on here?
I actually took the Devils, so
I like to hear that. It's we will get right quickly back into Edmonton really fast here, but I do want to touch base because we're probably not going to talk a whole lot about Seattle. But like a team that found their second win, like they were a team that a lot of people.
Well, they've lost 2 in a row now, though, so maybe they are due for a win.
But this is the team that loses 2 and wins 7 in a row, or loses 1 and wins 5. Right? That's what they've been doing like all season. It seems like everybody's like, oh, there's the loss. The naysayers are starting to come in, and they wait for the next the chain of events. It doesn't seem to happen in Seattle. I didn't expect them to be this good. I mean, Eberle is way better.
Nobody expected Vegas to be that good either. And look at how it's almost the same thing, except they weren't good right out of the gate like Vegas was. But
yeah, I think Vegas has done, mind you, right, Vegas has lost a lot of players over the last few years because of their salary cap issues, right? But like they have done a really good job of keeping
they're first place again.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. But I mean, I'm talking about that everybody's saying that they expected them to do poorly. I think that the guys that they kept, even maybe they weren't stat playing guys, they kept guys that were similar to what you see in the Bruins type build, right? The model of that type of player. Maybe not in the pay structure because everybody in Boston takes a pay cut except for Pasta, it seems. But as far as like,
they took a big chance picking up Jack Eichel, and it's paying off big time for them this year, right? Like everyone just wants to knock Jack Eichel so bad. The guy's a superstar, so
they don't want to admit that right now, right? I mean, the guy has been actually playing very well. He's definitely
he's over himself. A point a game, yeah. Mm-hmm. So getting him back, being patient on that, moving Pacioretty. I don't want to say New England-ish, but they kind of have that, like what you're saying, where they don't keep guys, they just kind of move them, and they replace them with a guy that's a similar skill set.
Yeah,
and it seems to be working for them. The goalie situation going on with Robin Lehner. I don't know if you read about that situation, but that is one of the most bizarre things ever. I don't know if did you see?
Yeah, I saw. And here's the thing
about the snakes that he apparently bought a collection of snakes, and now the guy wants these guys dead, but the guy's wife wants the money for the snakes that he owes him. Like,
yeah, and this is the weird thing too. Like you read the article and it talks about that his bankruptcy is saying that he has liabilities anywhere from $10 to $50 million. First and foremost, there's a big gap there. Like, how do you have a gap of $40 million potentially?
They don't even know.
Exactly.
Some of these snakes are worth millions of dollars. They don't even know like the value of this snake collection. The guy thought he got off scot-free because the guy died, and now they're coming after him for the money.
Yeah.
And I've never heard someone having to file bankruptcy because of a snake collection. It's extremely bizarre. But
and the guy was going through his own shit. They fucked up
big time there because they gave him the money, and they let Marc-Andre Fleury walk.
Mm-hmm.
And now, luckily, this Logan Thompson guy is, he's having a really good year for them. But, Marc-Andre Fleury would look a lot better right now on that team than Robin Lehner, the snake keeper. So, but very bizarre. But yeah, back to that. They have been filling the void, but I expect them to slow down a bit. Back to Edmonton, they are picking up steam. Getting Vander Kane back, that's big. Like, people can say what they want about him. The guy's a great hockey player. Mm-hmm. So that just bumps down another guy into their bottom 6, which, they clearly need. We haven't talked enough about how Ryan Nugent-Hopkins just having a phenomenal year.
He's not just the other guy anymore, right?
No, and he's actually this is one of the very few draft picks out of all those ones that they left. Yakupov, Eberle, Hall, like Larson, like all these guys. Those are all first overall picks that they didn't work out.
Yeah.
Luckily, they got like 8 chances at it, and they finally got McDavid. But but when it comes down to it, that does bump him down. Now, like McDavid, he has flipped the switch. Like if he can even flip the switch even more, I mean, the guy's on pace for like 180 points.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like Gretzky put up the 212 points as a record. No one thought that anyone even come close to that. And he's knocking at the door kind of with it. So it's impressive.
Is this the detriment though? I mean, it's great to have a guy that can go and get you that 150 points, but if you don't have the depth throughout the team and you can only play this guy 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes in an overtime game type thing situation, like how much can you already lean on one guy?
Well, that leads me to my next thing, right? Yeah. Like the next thing, the big rumors are, that Patrick Kane is available, going to, either Boston or Edmonton are the two big ones. Now, I'm hoping he personally goes to Edmonton so they can literally have McDavid and Kane and call it the McCain line. McCain deep and delicious, baby. Come get some. That would be awesome to put them together. But if they were able to go out and get a guy like Patrick Kane, I feel like that would be almost enough. If Jack Campbell, keeps playing, because at the beginning of the year he was playing at 87% save percentage, literally. And now he's got himself up to about like a 9-10. So like he's playing good hockey the last we saw him play down the stretch for Toronto. He's one of the only reasons Toronto even made the playoffs the one year.
Yeah, I mean, don't tell any Toronto fan that because they'll.
No, I know, but he can get hot. Everyone wants to knock him. Right? Well, exactly, but he can get hot. They like to knock him, but they are taking off and they're looking pretty good. And they're playing the Lightning tonight, which I'm really excited about that game because Lightning were rolling last night. And Edmonton's been rolling, so I feel like that's going to be quite the clash there. But with talking about Kane, if Kane can go to the Bruins, like how disgusting would that be?
Man, I know I saw when you put that in there, and I took a long pause, and I just said like it wouldn't happen. Like there's just a few reasons that I think that wouldn't happen. One, I just don't think. Well, what are you going to give up? Like, what are you going to give from Boston back to Chicago? Right? Is it draft picks? I mean, your draft picks are useless right now. But as far
as a dumpster fire, though, they'll take anything at this point. I think.
Well, yeah, okay, but so they name it, right? Like they just like.
So let's say like even a Jake DeBrusk. Would you trade Jake DeBrusk right now for Patrick Kane?
But that's the thing. Like, I just don't think that Boston would have to do that. Like, here's the thing: you're the President's Trophy leading candidate right now. You were 10 points or 12 points above the next leading team in the league. You are clicking on all cylinders. It is not a depth issue. It is not like you lose one player and suddenly your team can crumble. Like if they were to lose.
But he's not just one player though. This is a guy that won multiple Stanley Cups and is still at a really high level, just not playing with really good people.
No,
you put him on a team like Boston. That's a huge pickup.
I just think that it's a fantasy style pickup versus like a logical thing. Like that team is already over the hump. They don't need anything to beat any other team in the league. They've proven that already this season.
Yeah, but come playoff time, it could be different.
Yeah, but I just look at the teams that are going to be like that 2 through 4 seed as the teams that are going to probably make a push here, right? And those are the teams that are going to have the money too. We're talking about Boston that. Right now, they didn't pay money to Pasta, right? And they're going to have to pay him come up. Not that Kane's going to have an issue because his contract's going to be out the door anyway, but it's just another issue of like, well, we just gave $6 million because it's going to be something.
Yeah, but look at this though. Patrice Bergeron is banged up big time. I could see him going down. One of these guys going down. If say Patrice Bergeron does go down, it opens up the cap space for it, and then all of a sudden you have that free money to go get him. Then that changes everything.
Well, but you're on that scenario there. I mean, again, fantasy because we're talking about a long LTIR scenario, right? Because they can't just go on, be injured for a couple of weeks and their salary doesn't count. They'd have to go on LTIR, right?
Well, they have to go into the playoffs, exactly.
Yeah, that being said, they could limp the rest of the season to the playoffs if Patrice Bergeron.
And here's another thing. Like talking about a long-term IR, mm-hmm. The Leafs, Jake Muzzin, it's looking like Jake Muzzin may have played his last game. We don't know for sure, but he's definitely not playing this year, mm-hmm. By the looks of it. Yeah. That is a big cap number that comes off the books for the Leafs and opens up their strapped cap situation to go out and get a guy like maybe Jonathan Toews.
So now, mind you, he has had I'm going to throw another name out there that's on the team already. Tavares, JT. another TT that you're talking that is here. He's had a
Yeah.
resurgence in his career this season. Okay, but for the
Somehow,
last
I told you because I talked to him in the offseason and told him to move his feet,
yeah.
and he started skating again. There's no more cement shoes.
And I still do think that Taves does have a lot to give the game. And you know what,
Oh, yeah.
you know what, it's really he's better. I still think he is better at this stage in his career, but he is eerily similar to what Jason Spezza was.
But that's what they're. But Jason Spezza fit in perfect. That's why I think. But he's better than Jason Spezza.
Yeah,
Let's be honest.
he is better. He's better than Jason Spezza. Yeah,
and he can contribute in so many different areas that Spezza couldn't. Taves can still play on the penalty kill. He can still take like defensive zone faceoffs, and in the right situation, you put him on a power play with that Leafs team. And, like that guy still knows how to bury. He's still a natural goal scorer. Yeah, he has his ups and downs, but what a guy to add to that dressing room. There's rumors, like they're both going pretty much by the deadline. And the Leafs, I feel like it's like perfect for him to go to the Leafs.
Well, with the Devils, there have been some rumors floating around that there could be a connection there with Patrick Kane. And I think that this is, again, a lot of the fantasy talk about how Jack Hughes is a lot like Patrick Kane, and it'd be so sweet to see them on the same line together and what they could do together. So I've been reading a lot.
I don't know it worked though.
Yeah, no. And I'll be very honest. There's nothing on my team or on the Devils team that I feel would be good for us to give up in order to get Kane. He wouldn't be back next season. I don't think. It doesn't make sense for the long run.
It's a rental player for sure. But.
Yeah. So I've been kind of like ears to the ground, like kind of reading about what the beat reporters are talking about regarding Kane and Taves, and I think of the two, I think it's more likely that Taves gets moved than Kane, and the only reason that I say that is because Kane's family, like he has completely flipped his lifestyle. He's a family man now. His kids have started school. They've settled down.
So we think, yeah.
Well, yeah. But we're talking about, now. Do I think that Patrick Kane's career is done at the end of the season? I don't think so. We're talking about 6 months where he can say to his family, "Hey, I'll stick around here for 6 more months. I'm going to get paid a hefty amount of money to do it. I'm not chasing anything right now. And in the off season, we'll make a decision together where we can go."
Well, he is American. I can't. Like he said, he would rather die than go to the Leafs. So we know that that's never happening.
Yeah,
but, Boston, I just feel is perfect for him. Boston is just perfect. I think
my dark horse here in the thing. I mean, we can move on right after that. I think that my dark horse team, and I said it before, is still going to be the Rangers. I think the Breadman connection there, getting them back together, is something that could definitely be strong for them. It's an original six team. I was going to say this about Taves, but hoping he doesn't go to Toronto, saying that maybe a guy from an original 6 team doesn't want to go to another one. But then I do want to say that in this scenario, same thing.
He just doesn't like Canada.
Yeah, well, that's Taves. But with Kane, I don't want him going to the Rangers either, because I don't need them getting any help. They have somehow kept themselves around this season. So even after having a really rough start. So.
They did come back, but I just want to touch on real quick. We'll go to Vancouver because what a dumpster fire going on over there. I just don't understand how this team has so much talent and has no consistency. And then you look back to last year, and Bruce, there it is. Remember how huge that was. He went on a huge run. I think he was 30-12 or something to end that year, and saved them. And almost got them into the playoffs. It was pretty close, and it looked like they were going in the right direction. Bo Horvat's having a career year, London Knight, baby. Whoever expected Bo Horvat to have 30 goals at this point. He was a grinder. He was a good two-way center, but we never expected Bo Horvat to have this type of scoring ability. Elias Pettersson is soft as shit. We expected way more from him. JT Miller, he gave up a long time ago. Brock Besser is he's glass house. Their goaltending isn't what it was supposed to be, and you just had a healthy scratch of Oliver Ekman-Larsson last week. This guy makes as much money as Quinn Hughes, and he's healthy scratched, for an example. I don't understand what's going on. How did they lose it so bad?
Well, I'm taking a look at their schedule here, and their blue line has not been good this year. But I really think that this has to come down to the goaltending. At some point, I look at their losses here, Rick, and there's one.
They've had the lead now in almost every game, almost.
Yeah, well, but there's out of their losses. Okay, so we've got 2, 5, 8, 12, 14. But in the last 15 losses, Rick, only one of them has the opposing team scored 3 goals or less. The rest of them have all been over 4 goals. Like, I get we're in today's NHL and there's going to be a high goal scoring affair here, but you cannot give up 4+ goals every frigging game and expect to make some kind of headway. It's not going to happen. So, I do, yeah, I've seen it enough over the last 5.
Demko struggled
That's
so
exactly
bad.
it. Like, I wanted to say that I've seen over the prior years on New Jersey what bad defense can really do to expose goaltending, and sometimes it does have to fall on the blue line here. And I'm sure there's some blame there in Vancouver. I really do have to put this all on Thatcher. Like, this was a goalie that coming into the season, I was praying and hoping may be available near the trade deadline for the Devils to pick up, because I had no idea what
Do you remember
Vitek.
that playoffs he had a couple years ago? He
Yeah.
stood on his fucking head.
That's
I thought
right.
this guy was going to be really, really like the real deal. So
And
I'm really surprised.
he's not even playing. Like, that's like the crazy thing is he played the beginning start of the season, and then it seems like they've just taken it away from him. Now, has he been hurt? I don't really know what the deal is there. They've been playing this
That's the thing,
Delia
though.
and Martin player.
Spencer Martin has been awesome.
Yeah.
Like, for a guy, like, lately not as much, but he had a stretch there where, he was playing really, really good hockey. Like, now his numbers look like crap, and numbers can be deceiving sometimes. But
Well, that's what I said. Somebody's the blue line. It's got to be their fault. But then he's the one specifically that I'm looking at that's giving up. His games seem to have these high scoring affairs, right? So, I mean, it's great that he stood on his head and everything, but I really do think it comes down to the goaltending, unfortunately. And
I think it comes down to more than just the goaltending. When you're paying between Quinn Hughes, between Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Tyler Myers, you're paying $20 million. That's 3 defensemen you're giving $20 million fucking dollars to, and Oliver Ekman-Larsson was way past his prime. He is not. That was a terrible signing by Jim Benning as well. Jim Benning handcuffed this team so bad that even Jim Rutherford can't fix it. And these guys, even Quinn Hughes has not been that good. The number, like, he's got points, but when it comes down to defensive presence, Tyler Myers is supposed to be that guy. He's not. They let Tanev go a couple years ago to Calgary, and when Tanev doesn't play for Calgary, Calgary's in trouble. Like, you don't realize how important a guy like Chris Tanev is. Mm-hmm. But that being said, pretty much everybody's available on this team. Bo Horvath, 30 goals. Even Pettersson, even though he's soft, he's still at 52 points in 42 games. I think he's pretty much the only untouchable one other than Quinn Hughes. But there's a lot of good players on this team that if to pick it apart, if the right team gets a certain guy from here, it could be very very beneficial for them.
So I'll play devil's advocate then. I'm Vancouver's GM. I look at my roster and I say, listen, I don't know what the hell happened right now, why it's not clicking, but I do know that this roster on paper is not just me saying this, but I don't think the GMs look at everybody, all the medias and everybody else. But this team was supposed to be rolling coming into the season. They weren't supposed to be a bad
supposed
team.
to compete anyways.
That's right. So I look at it and I say, is this an off year? I do have a lot of money that's wrapped up. I do have zero as far as the farm system goes. This team is what you have on the ice right now is what you are going to see for the next few years. As far as the farm system goes, they have absolutely nothing coming up. So you can certainly trade away some players and get some draft picks and the what ifs. But then the only player that I look at that roster and I go, okay, yeah, move him, is Bo. Like, I'm not willing, even though Thatcher hasn't played recently inside his struggles, even though we talked about this Martin guy.
JT Miller, he doesn't move. He doesn't want to be there.
Didn't he just sign a deal though?
He did, yeah. That was after the playoffs where they were looking good, and then obviously since then everything went downhill. He hates being there.
The one in the summer, wasn't it? I thought it was like he put up.
That was before last year.
Oh, okay.
That was before last year, and the guy that we got to shed light on that's been the diamond in the rough is this Andrei Kuzmenko guy. This guy out of nowhere, he just got 39 points, 43 games. I've never even heard of him. Mm-hmm. Not to mention that's in 15 minutes of ice time a game. Pretty impressive. And just to give you an idea, he's shooting at 25% right now. So 25% of his shots are going in the net. Elias Pettersson is at 12% right now.
Wow.
So he shot the puck 147 times, only scored 18 times. Like when you that's supposed to be your best goal scorer and he's shooting at 12%, like you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So defense or not, like I just don't understand how they've got this bad that quick. I feel so bad for Bruce Boudreau. Just fire the guy. It's already been said, even on 32 Thoughts, that Rick Tocchet is going to be the coach. So they've already said this is going to happen, and you're just still letting poor Bruce Boudreau will go out there and coach, which is not fair at all because we love Bruce Boudreau. And, it's just not like, just fire the guy. The guy's like, well, I guess I'm here until they tell me that I'm not. Like, he just doesn't even know what the fuck's going on. Like, it's so bad, man. Just fire the guy and get it over with, man.
I'll still just show up. Now, I was just taking a quick gander there. JT Miller is a player with a no movement clause, so he'd have to be going somewhere that he would like to go to, and that would also be able to afford his $8 million a year deal, which is frigging ridiculous. That thing is going to be there for the next 6 years. Or
yeah, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, so he'll be sticking around.
Brock Besser is a guy that's been rumored to be traded forever, but he can't stay healthy. So
yeah, and that's a problem, right?
Maybe the Leafs could trade and get Luke Schenn back, their 5th overall draft pick that they whiffed on like 10 years ago.
Well, that would, with the Canucks being as bad as they are, and as late in the career as he is, Luke Schenn, if they were to lose Luke Schenn, I think that the Canucks would absolutely lose any amount of grit that the team has left, and we would really see them fall into a hole, man. Luke Schenn is the only thing, when I watch any Vancouver games, he is the only guy on the ice that routinely makes every single person know he is on the ice. He throws his body still today like he did 12 years ago. I love it. I love that he still plays the game the way that he does. He's still getting paid.
You know what? He is the only plus defenseman on Vancouver Canucks.
Luke Schenn got a lot of heat in Toronto. I made fun of him because
he was terrible in Toronto. For a 5th overall pick, he was not what he needed to be. But
then I look at it and we're years removed from that, and I have come to, through the NFL, through the NBA, it's not your fault where you get drafted. I feel like the 5th overall pick,
No, it's not. But when he was dominant in junior and he came into the Leafs and he was just a liability a lot, but the Leafs made he worked hard on his game. Props to Luke Schenn. He worked hard in the minors. He got back up. He got a chance, with Tampa Bay. Actually got a Stanley Cup. And, then, actually got a contract based on how he played. So good for him. But, yeah, it's not your fault when you get drafted. But at the same time, it is. When you were drafted 5th overall by the Toronto Maple Leafs, you are expected, to be a presence. And he was not a presence. But that was the same time that they kept Justin Pogge instead of Tuukka Rask. So,
Well, it was a very the team itself, he didn't play sheltered minutes. This is a lot of young defensemen. Doesn't matter how good you are, where you're drafted, you're going to play a lot of sheltered minutes, and he didn't. He came right out of the gates playing. Unfortunately, he certainly got exposed as a result. But I still
good for him. But it's just, it'd be cool if he went back to Toronto after all this time, and because they could use a guy like Luke Schenn. They could still use a good out front net presence. So
you imagine having a guy like Luke Schenn that throws the body still in Toronto. I mean, the fans would go nuts. They go nuts now for a 60 goal scorer who's probably not going to break 40 this year. Cough, cough. But you put somebody like Luke Schenn.
Because I don't have the Boston. There's no Voss, man. That's why I told you. There's all the Voss last year with Boston Matthews.
But yeah, you put a guy like Luke Schenn in there throwing the body, and I think that brings back a little of the old-time hockey. It's something that Toronto, they're not necessarily missing it right now, but they could definitely use it for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I'll touch on Calgary real quick. They just look like crap, and it's just like, what the problem is? It seems like I watch Calgary games. It's like I don't even watch the first period anymore because this team just doesn't know what time the game starts. Because they always play so good in the second period. Like even last night, they gave up 3 goals quick to Colorado. I took Colorado because Colorado's rolling, by the way. We asked last week if they were going to be able to make that push. Well, they look like they're making that push. Mm-hmm. But, Markstrom, he looked like he was going to get pulled. Daryl Sutter said he doesn't pull the goalie, even though they looked it up and found he's pulled the goalie 42 times in his career. So he obviously forgot. But either way, he didn't pull him. He left Markstrom in. Markstrom played awesome. But it wasn't enough in the end. They didn't, what's his name over there? Georgiev played amazing last night. He made so many huge saves, but they're just not they're not clicking, man. And they're not other than Kadri, it seems like nobody's trying at a high level because Kadri is not a problem. I assure you that.
Do you think that the stories about how ugly and shitty it is to play and go to the Calgary Stadium on a daily basis have really starting to grind some gears, some players there? There's a lot of new faces in Calgary, right? Everybody has played in Calgary as far as a visiting team or visiting player, but now they're living in it, man. I mean, it's the first winter for some of these guys, right?
Yeah, but you know what? That's the thing with the shitty stadium. The shitty stadium's great when you're winning. When you're not winning, it sucks, right? So when you're a good team and you're winning, you crave that to go to your dungeon and bring people into it and make them suffer, the saddle, And when it comes down to it, when you're doing well, that the close, I've been to a game there. It feels like you're watching a game at the JLC or Budweiser Gardens. Like, it feels like you're really close to the ice. Everything's really tight. Like, it's a great stadium for that if you're rallying. But I don't think that they have quite figured out the chemistry. I don't know at this point if Daryl Sutter's the answer. Like, I thought I would never say that, but his press conferences, the Bill Belichick shit, it needs to go sometimes.
Yeah, it's time, it's time to answer up sometimes, right?
Yeah, like, I don't mind being a dick here and there and being stern, but like, when you're being asked valid questions and your answers are like, no. Like last night, he's like, were you happy with your team's effort after the first period? He's like, nope, we lost. We got our ass kicked. He's like, we played the champions, hard to beat. And his excuse last night, hard to beat the champions twice in 1 year. That's a crock of shit.
Yeah.
Okay? That's your fucking excuse for what you tell me you went into the game thinking you weren't going to fucking win. No, you expect to win every fucking game. When you have a roster like the Calgary Flames have, you should expect to win every fucking game. Okay, they have a great roster. They should have great goaltending. Markstrom, like I said, we've talked about that before. But even Bedard the other day, they were up 5-1 to Dallas, and they almost blew that fucking game.
Yeah.
Bedard was the one in net for that.
Well,
their defense isn't good enough. Weaker hasn't been good enough. And losing Giordano, we won't want to admit it, but it has been like we haven't really replaced Giordano since then.
Yeah.
And Rasmus Anderson needs to be better. Just everybody needs to be better. Mangiapane, my boy, he hasn't fucking done shit this year, really. And, Daryl Sutter, he's great. It's great to be stern, but this is a team that needs encouragement, and I just don't think he's the one giving it to them right now.
No. And I look at, like, the recent stretch of games, you're only a good representation of where you are when you start playing some good teams. And, they've had a few good teams in their recent schedule, but it's a lot of shitty teams that they're losing to. Like, they're coasting right now. Now, the only good news for them here, I guess, is they've got a lot of these crappy teams out of the way now. They're going to be coming into some pretty tough teams come down after the All-Star break.
Oh, yeah, the Battle of Alberta's over already. It's crazy. They already played the 3 games.
I know, it's so silly they do that. Like, I feel like that's something that should always be done.
That's why COVID. That's pretty much the only thing good about COVID was 8 games. When we had all the Canadian teams in the same division and having 8 Battle of Albertas, that was wonderful. But
if you're gonna have 3, 2 of those should be after the trade deadline. I feel. I think that all of these imperative rival matchups, if you're going to have an odd number of games, 3, 5, whatever it may be, the majority of those games should be played post trade deadline. Is how that should be played out. There's so much that could happen there, and that just gives a lot of for the fan. Screwed with the fan things, but for the fan, it gives us a lot of ammo.
We pay their salaries, Kaylin. So.
That's right, we do. But it gives us ammo to say, like, well, you wouldn't have beat us if we had this guy because we proved it, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, just let the rivalries play out when you have all the players on the team, kind of thing, right?
Exactly, for sure. Well, we'll move on from hockey. I have one more thing on hockey. There's another guy that is leading the league that is rejuvenated this year in defensive scoring, and that's Erik Karlsson. We never expected Erik Karlsson to return to this form. Back to when the days where, he was a cheat code in NHL. So it's impressive what he's doing based on, San Jose, the way they're playing. It makes sense to have him moved. So that's another guy up there that we could expect to probably be moved by the deadline. And there's rumors he wants to go back to Ottawa. So
yeah, I've heard that rumor as well. And then Timo from that team is the other one that always seems to be on the trade deadline or trade block for some reason, in the fans' eyes anyway. I don't know if that's actually happening, but I know a lot of the Devils fans would like to have Timo come over to New Jersey there. So off of hockey awesome. Now, and there's a couple of other sports now. I don't know, would you want to do tennis first or UFC?
We'll do some UFC first.
Okay, so I it's the one thing that I love about UFC is that when it's on, and I mean by that is every weekend there is something to watch. But that hiatus, but in the holiday season there, from like Christmas through New Year's and everything there, where there's like it's not much happening, and then we're coming into now we get the announcement of.
Let's save the good announcements for after. Okay. We got big things going on in UFC.
All right, lay it on me.
Yeah, so we did have a little bit like when you have a 3-week break now for UFC, it's like a big deal, right? Because you're so used to having a card every week.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Dale Son's not able to be on with us tonight. But I'm going to do my best to cover everything here for you. UFC 283 has some really good, intriguing matches on it. There's a bunch we could cover. But I'm going to start with the preliminary card main event, which is complete fucking garbage, by the way, that this guy is not on the main card because this is a guy that's built MMA. Okay, I feel like he's been around forever. This guy's been around since we were in high school. But Maurice Shogun Hua He's been one of my favorites since day one. This guy is just a warrior. He's fought in everything, and he has fought, through Pride. He's fought in UFC. He's fought the best of the best of the best. And I've got my UFC gloves out here, ready to roll. But you look down this guy's his fight resume. It's just unbelievable. His first fight came in November of 2002.
What's his record?
His record overall now is 27-13.
Holy.
Okay, and
It's just a lot of fights, man.
It's a lot of fights, and that doesn't include like the underground fights in Brazil before he got anywhere, right? So, 2002 November, his first fight. So we're talking 21 years ago.
This guy's 41. He's fighting somebody who's 26.
Yeah, and that's another thing we'll get to as well. He has never taken a fucking fight off. This guy has fought the best of the best his whole career, even up to now. He's fought the best. And his records, he still had won, and he got fucking ripped off his last fight against OSP, Ovin St. Preux. He should have won that fight. I cannot believe, if you actually watch that fight, he clearly won, and the UFC refs, the judges, just ripped him off. But if you look down this guy's resume, okay, just the guys he's fought, this was in Pride, when the guys were really good. Quentin Rampage Jackson, Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira, Alistair Overeem, Mark Coleman, Kevin Randleman, Alistair Overeem again, Forrest Griffin, Chuck Liddell, Machida, John Jones, Forrest Griffin, Dan Henderson, Alexander Gustafsson, Chael Sonnen, Dan Henderson again, like Anthony Smith, Paul Craig. Like, the guy has just fought the best of the best his whole career. He's never had an easy fight. And even these last few fights, even the last 5, he's got 2 in a row losses, but like, they weren't bad fights, It wasn't like, oh, he's gonna hang it up. He's gonna hang it up. Like he's got given her every time, and when he's done, those white trunks are fucking bloody almost every single time.
So when does he get his swan song fight? I mean, we're talking about a guy who's 41.
This is his last fight,
and he gets put on the prelims.
And the prelim, yeah, it's fucking crock of shit.
That's not cool.
So they put Paul Craig, a guy that he's had a draw and lost to, on the main card against Johnny Walker instead of him. And it's just, to me, it's disgusting. Like, this guy deserves a main card slot. Now, what I can say is that it's in Brazil. So they gave him his last fight in Brazil, and, that arena is going to be packed right from day one, or right from minute one. So it's not like it's going to be at the Apex where nobody watches the prelims. Like, that place is going to be loaded, and he does have the main event on the prelims. So I guess the only thing I could see is that they gave him the main event on the prelims instead of giving him the first slot on the main card. But this guy's he's a pioneer. He developed this sport, and he's one of the reasons why we watch, because Shogun has been, and he doesn't even need to retire right now. He could probably still keep going. We were really hoping that they would put it together so him and Machida could have fought here for this final fight, because him and Machida have fought over the years a couple times. Okay. They were. If you haven't watched those fights, go watch them. Watch Shogun Machida. They are 2 of the most ridiculous fights you will ever see in your life. And they were to the wire. This guy just gave her every time. You know what? Out of his 40 fights, only 6 of them have went the distance.
And he was, so they're just all, are we talking about any submissions in there, or are we just talking bloodbaths?
No, he in his 27 fights, his 27 wins, he's got 21 knockouts, 1 submission. So 22. So only 5 times he's went the distance in his wins. And only 4 times has he gone the distance in a loss. So it's either go big or go home, man. Like, this guy just puts it on the line, and that's why you gotta love him.
And he's gonna have to. The guy's fighting is 19-3.
Not to mention, he's only 6'1", 200 pounds. This guy has fought heavyweight. He has fought light heavyweight. He's fought everywhere, man. He's just fought all of it. So I just gotta give him a shout out, Shogun. I used to always say look like Nate, and Machida looked just like his mom. So when they fought each other, I was like, Nate, you're fighting your mom tonight. Good luck. I hope it ends well.
Oh my God. That's terrible.
So, shout out to Shogun. We'll move along, because I'm not going to cover all the fights, but we'll cover the 3 big ones. Next one up, Neil Magny, Gilbert Burns. Very intriguing matchup, because Gilbert Burns, he's the only guy to push, Chimaev, Khamzat Chimaev.
Yeah.
That fight was absolutely ridiculous. I don't know if you've seen it, but wow, that was a wild fight.
So coming into this welterweight, then, I'm looking at this fight with Neil Magny, and this isn't even going to be close to me. For me, I know that Neil's no slouch by any means, right? But Gilbert Burns is going to fuck him up, right? Like we know this is how it's going to go
Oh,
down. This is
if Dan was on here, like he said to me at work, he's like, Neil Magny is going to get destroyed.
yeah.
I feel like Gilbert Burns, like his only 2 losses in his last 10 fights are to Kamaru Usman and Khamzat. So,
He's really,
like he's fought the best of the best too. He's Woodley, Usman, Stephen Thompson, Kamaev. Like, this guy just has been thrown into the fire immediately since he's come to the UFC and just fought nothing but the best.
yeah. And then Figueiredo, right? We get our boy.
Oh yeah, that's the next one. We'll get into that one because that's my favorite.
I am
that's
a
my
big
favorite
fan
there.
of this guy. He's really growing on me. I think he is a complete fighter. He's kind of like the Sean O'Malley for me. I don't know what he's like.
Are you talking about Figueiredo or Moreno?
Figueiredo.
Well, yeah, screw him. So
I dig him.
I'm all about the assassin baby. Brandon Moreno, he has been robbed 2 times now by the UFC against Figueiredo. God of War. Figueiredo, before he fought Brandon Moreno, looked like he was a Terminator, wrecking machine. There was nothing that could touch this guy. He fucking destroyed anything that stepped in his path. Moreno, this goofy little guy, looks like he's fucking got his eyes closed all the time, from Mexico, has just pushed him to the limit. This is the first time in UFC history we've had the fourth fight. First time ever. Okay. First time, we have a draw. Second time, Moreno beats him, which Moreno should have won the first time. Second time, Moreno wins. And then the last fight, Davison Figueiredo wins, and I didn't even believe he won that fight. The UFC, I believe, did this only so they could have this 4th fight, because I don't believe that Figueiredo is going to beat Moreno this time. Moreno, I believe, knows what it takes to beat this guy. But at the same time, like you said, Figueiredo is amazing. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does pull it off. But between the 3 fights, Moreno's the only one that's finished.
Well, I do think that is going to be, of the fights that are on that card, I think that's my favorite one to watch. It's the one that I think is going to have the most action. As you mentioned, 4 fights. There's going to be a lot of animosity coming into it as a result of this. And Moreno does have a lot to fight for.
And I'm taking Moreno by knockout this time. I think he's going to knock him out.
Oh, good call.
That's my pick. Slick Rick takes Moreno by knockout.
All right.
So we'll move on to the main event.
Yeah.
We got a big main event here. Glover Teixeira versus Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill. And I know you probably don't know a lot about Jamal Hill, but this guy's an up-and-comer. I'll speak for Dan on this one as well. This guy looks scary. He looks very scary. But at the same time, Teixeira, we didn't think. Teixeira said he was done. He wanted one more fight against Yuri. Yuri, what a gentleman. Instead of holding the division up like Ngannou, he gave up the title because he knows he's not going to be ready for probably until the end of the year. So they're having an interim title fight. Not John Jones. What were we talking?
Teixeira?
Jamal Hill. Sorry, I want to say John Jones. Jamal Hill. This guy's very deserving for this title shot. It's a big stage, and for Teixeira to take it, very impressive as well, because like we talked about him fighting a younger fighter with Shogun. Like, this guy, is very, very a lot much. Like, what is he? 15 years younger.
He's 43.
Yeah,
43 and 31. So they're 12-year difference there. Again, yeah, big difference. And we're talking about a guy who has nearly just a little over 3 times as many fights on paper than Hill. I mean, that's crazy when you look at that. How much experience?
Very much like Shogun, right? They're almost the same age, and they're both Brazilian. They both been fighting for their bread for like 50 years.
Yeah.
So Jamal Hill, that's the only thing I was going to say that I think might catch him is Glover's experience, because when people, like 3 years ago, people wrote Glover off. When he lost to John Jones, that was supposed to be it. When you lose to a champion, when you lose a championship fight when you're like 40 years old, 39, it's usually over. You don't climb back up the ranks again.
Yeah.
And Glover's done that. He has climbed back up the ranks, and Yuri beat him, but Glover gave Yuri the biggest run he's ever had, to the point where he can't even fight anymore because of that fight. Was so ridiculous. Now, my only worry is that Glover put too much into that fight and took way too much abuse, and he is 43 years old. So is it too much at this point? But the experience might get Jamal Hill. We don't know. Dan said to say he's taking Jamal Hill. I'm going to go with Glover. I'm going to say I really think the experience can get him here. If he can withstand, the early flurry from Jamal Hill, I believe that if Glover gets him to the ground, if Glover gets anybody to the ground, it's big trouble usually. So I'm going to go with Glover for one more time with him, but I think it's going to be a banger.
Yeah, and I look at him and I don't think that like he doesn't have to change his game or change his fighting style. He can continue doing. He doesn't have to. What I'm trying to say is that as you get older, he doesn't have to worry about the breakdown of his body. I think as a 43-year-old fighter, the way he fights and the style of fights that he does and the grind that he does on players or on opponents. But there's some
Yeah.
as you get older, you just can't teach getting wise with age, right? Like that's just something that I think this guy's going to have as well. I'm not. It's like the Tom Brady type of effect, right? Like you get to be 43 in your sport or 45, and you're still competing at the top of your game. I think that we have to look at you and say that you know how to mold yourself with the
Well,
times, right?
and it comes down to two. Can you take a shot?
Yeah.
And a lot of guys, once you hit 40, they can't take a shot. Like ask Chuck Liddell, he
Mm-hmm.
still can't take a shot, and he still doesn't know what happened from like 8 years ago. So there are guys out there that they just can take a punch.
Yeah.
And we've seen that. Like Glover, it looked like he was in trouble several times against Yuri, and he could just take a punch and he can recover. And some guys just have the ability to be able to do that. And you either have it or you don't.
Yeah.
And it also comes with being knocked out a million times. If you've been knocked out a bunch of times, you're not going to have it anymore. Ask Bigfoot. He finally just retired. Like Bigfoot Silva.
Wow.
Like that guy was still fighting in boxing against like 25-year-olds. He's been knocked out 14 out of his last 15 fights. He was still getting people to sanction him somehow. I don't fucking know how. So thank God Bigfoot is finally retiring because we don't want to see him get knocked out no more. But when you have the intelligence and the fight sense that Glover Teixeira has, you do your best not to get rocked like that. And, you wouldn't be 33-8 at 43 years old if you didn't know how to take a punch and dodge a punch. So I hope it's a good fight. It's going to be a great card. And, we'll talk about it next week and see what happens.
Yeah.
But we have a couple other things in UFC we got to cover real quick before we move along. Because John Bone Jones, baby, is back. This announcement we've been waiting for 2 years now to move to heavyweight. Love him or hate him, the guy's still undefeated. He has one loss due to kneeing somebody accidentally in the head, which shouldn't even happen. But he is, arguably the best fighter of all time. I don't know if you've seen pictures of him recently, but he's jacked up. And, what a great fight to jump into right away. Cyril Gane and him, very stylistically similar. And a guy that has probably, a quarter of the fighting experience John Jones has. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, and I watched UFC when he was in it, and I got to meet him. That was pretty cool and everything here when he came through London, which was pretty neat back in the day when he was really a nobody. At the time.
Jones?
Yeah, when he was a nobody at the time, and so that was pretty cool. But I also, and I still haven't looked much into it, but I wasn't into the sport enough. My image and my portrayal of John is just Bones Jones is a cheater. He's a guy that cheated multiple times, got caught multiple times here, and maybe they're not all his fault.
Was doing blow before your fight all night, cheating?
Doing blow, doing the steroids, whatever he's doing, right? He's doing some silly shit. You're a guy that's that big. I just don't think that you needed anything. Let's
get the story straight, though. He had one time he was busted for steroids. One time. The rest of it was all drugs. That he was partying, and Dale Cormier, to this day, what pisses him off is that the times that Dale Cormier put everything he had into his training camp and everything against John Jones was partying, doing blow, and hanging out with hookers till like 8 a.m, got up and went to the arena and still whooped his fucking ass. On blow, he's probably high as shit still. So I don't believe ever. Look at his physique. He was never a juicer. Okay, not even a fucking chance. He's just got a problem with the law and got a problem with doing drugs and a problem with partying. But this John Jones, we like to believe that he's refined. We like to think that maybe he isn't doing that anymore. But even if even when he was, he beat everybody. This guy, you want to talk about a resume? Ryan Bader, Shogun, Quentin Jackson, Machida, Rashad Evans, Vitor Belfort, Chael Sonnen, Gustafsson, Teixeira, Cormier, Alexander Gustafsson again, Santos, Dominic Reyes, Anthony Smith. Like, this guy's beat everybody. So now he's taking on the next challenge going up. I think Cyril Gane is the best fight. I would have loved to see him fight Ngannou, but, unfortunately they couldn't come to a contract agreement.
That is naturally the next fight, though, if Bones Jones wins this, right? There's no way that doesn't happen.
No, Ngannou's gone, man. Like, he's gone. So he'll be fighting Stipe Miocic, and as he should.
When you say he's gone, his contract is just done with UFC, right? Who's he fighting with? Is he fighting with that other league
Well, PFL will probably give him a bunch of money, just like they gave Jake Paul. So PFL will probably be.
Is that what he's doing, though? Is what I'm saying is how many contract or how many years does Bones Jones have with UFC where maybe we can finally see?
John Jones just signed an 8-fight deal.
Oh lordy.
8 fights. He said he wants to fight 3 to 4 times a year. Ngannou, that's the big problem. Ngannou only wanted to sign a 3-fight deal. And the UFC was saying, well, we have an 8-fight deal lined up with John Jones, and you're only willing to sign a 3-fight deal. We'll give you the money you want, but you got to sign more than 3 fights. And he wouldn't do it. There's a lot of things we don't know exactly why, but maybe he's afraid to fight John Jones. He wants to get into boxing. He wants the big money fight against Tyson Fury, and that's what's going to happen for Ngannou. He's going to fight Tyson Fury, but Miocic is no slouch, and John Jones came out and said he wanted Miocic first. He believed that he's the best heavyweight of all time, and he wanted him first, not Cyril Gane. But Cyril Gane and him is a great fight. I think John Jones is going to take him to school on it and show him what's up, because this guy hasn't been fighting long enough to beat John Jones.
When was Jones' last fight?
2020.
And when was Cyril Gane's last fight?
He just beat Derek Lewis recently, and I think it's been within 6 months. The ring rust could be an issue. That's the only thing.
There might be some rust on the...
John Jones really, if you want to score, if John Jones wasn't John Jones, he probably would have lost that fight against Dominic Reyes. Dominic Reyes kicked his ass. That's the most danger, other than the Alexander Gustafsson fight you've ever seen John Jones in. But, John Jones is John Jones. I expect him to come out and kick his ass. So, other one we got to mention real quick before we move along, Usman and Edwards, we're getting the rematch for that the same month. So we're going to get two rematches of massive, or not rematches, but two huge title fights in the same month. We all know what happened to Usman. He was rolling 4 or 5 rounds to none pretty much. And, got Jean-Claude Van Damme in the head in the last, couple minutes. So I think this time Usman's going to whoop his ass. I don't believe that mistake's going to happen again. But who knows? Once a guy gets rocked like that, we never know if they recover. Ultimately, all we do know is the people on Dana White's power slap, are definitely not recovering well. I don't know if you've seen the most recent clips of it. We didn't think with Dana White's, extracurricular activities and shenanigans that this power slap was going to go forward, but it did. And I saw 3 things on Twitter this morning, and oh my God, the CTE doctors are having a heart attack, and they're going to be able to help anybody watching this, because how the hell does this get passed? How is this even allowed? It is just a concussion and CTE waiting to happen, but good job, Dana White.
Yeah, enjoyable. Just so we're very clear, the power slap challenge will never be part of the end of year pick'em or anything like that. I want to make sure we know that, right?
Oh no, I wouldn't even let that happen to you. No, I wouldn't let that happen to you. But
all right, so
watch it. It'll be great fights. We'll catch up on that next week. But a couple other things to cover here.
Yeah, we got to touch up base on the Australian Open. We're coming into the home stretch here. The show. I know there's some Canadians. We lost one, unfortunately, today. We
lost a couple, yeah. So when I sent you the notes earlier today, I didn't realize that Layla had lost. Tough loss for Layla. This is what happens when you get injured. In sports, you lose your ranking, and then if people don't understand, in the Grand Slams, when you lose your rankings, it makes very possible you're going to play a higher seed in an early round. She lost very tough to the 4 seed, lost in a tiebreaker in the first set, and then lost 7-5 in the second set. So I think she's still working back into form, but good for her. She had a really good win her first round. Tough loss, but Bianca, even a harder loss. Bianca looked really good in her first match. Second match, she was rolling. She was up like 4-2, lost in a tiebreaker. Second set, she was up again and lost again. So disappointing there, but that's okay. Good job, women. Better luck next time. What we're talking about is the men. We're talking about the men right now, because I've been saying Felix Auger-Aliassime, this guy is knocking on the door. He has the ability to win, especially on hard court like this in Australian Open. And he almost lost. He lost his first 2 sets in his match, and he won 3 straight to pull it off, which was just amazing. So he plays tonight at 11 Eastern. He plays the 28 seed, so I expect him to roll in that one. But Chapo or Andy Roddick.
What did you think about Murray and his complaints about these 4 a.m. finishes? I mean, I know tennis is a long match sometimes. Sometimes we see these 4-hour marathons. His match, I think, was 5.5 hours. His
matches are always 5.5 hours. That's why he's retired 3 times.
Yeah,
he's an old man.
He does go for the distance. But what do you think about that? Like, I get it. Like, I
4 a.m.
understand your complaint, but like, you went to Australia, you're jet lagged. What do you want me to say? Go there 3 weeks earlier, get used to the climate and the time.
But 4 a.m. is too much. That's too much.
But
Come on.
well, it is and it isn't, right? Like I don't understand. Like this is the reason why football players, when they go and play in London, England, they go over there for the week ahead so they can get used to the time difference, so they don't get
But
jet
these
lag
guys
and
aren't
shit.
out there. They're playing in Australia. Most people play in Australian tournaments. They're usually there for a couple of weeks. But the bottom line is that you're an athlete. No athletes are prepping to play till 4 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
The only athlete that preps till 4 in the morning is me. Yeah, so,
Yeah, that's right.
but Andy Murray, his matches have been like this forever. That's why he's retired, because he puts so much wear and tear on his body. His matches always go long because he doesn't have a killer instinct, and he doesn't have the power shots. He's just a very good court coverage, and I'm surprised he's come back as well as he did. But yeah, 4 a.m. is a little much. 2 a.m. I
Four
could
hours
see.
and 49 minutes was his first match. His second match was 5 hours 45. He basically added an hour to it.
It's
Oh,
just too much. But like you said, you know what you signed up for. So if you don't like it, don't show up, or just don't. When it comes to COVID, luckily Djokovic is finally allowed to play again, but he got
yeah,
heckled pretty bad for the fans recently as well.
yeah.
I just can't stand it. There's something about him that just really bothers me. But let's talk about our other hopeful here. Shapovalov is 10 seed. He's our Andy Roddick. I always say that. This guy, as long as he doesn't get too heated, he could win. But he is such a hothead. But he's looking hot. These first few games, he looks really good. He plays tonight at 1 a.m. against the 10 seed. He's ranked 20th. Ojale is the 6th seed, by the way. If people don't know, 6th seed. Pretty impressive. So, I hope
Anything
those two
inside the
guys
top
can win.
10. I mean, you got to be talking names, right?
Well, we have 2 Canadians in the top 10 for men. Like,
Yeah.
this is crazy. This never happened before. And shout out to the number 1 seed going out in the second round. Rafa, this is not his best Grand Slam at all, but he did win it last year for the second time.
Yeah.
And he exited in the second round. This is his second earliest exit in a Grand Slam ever. He's only lost in the second round one time, he lost in the first round a few years back. This is only the first time he's lost in the second round ever. Other than that, but it just came out that he needs hip flexor surgery and he's out 6 to 8 months.
Oh my God. And
So
you've
it
only
shows
got so
that's
many
why.
months left in your career, right?
Well, that's the thing. When Roger Federer went out last year, and when he did that, I was like, yeah, Nadal's winning still, but he's one injury away from following Roger out the door. So that just opens up the door for Felix. Now you only really have to compete with Djokovic, because anybody other than that, Medvedev maybe, but he beat Medvedev. I believe that this kid can beat anybody, and he's looking like a man now too. So I'm loving that, and I hope Felix can get it done. So it'd be
So,
awesome.
and what's going Jokovic? Is he healthy? What's going on with him? I know that, of course, he did a little bit of whining about the fans in the stands. I saw that.
Oh yeah.
The drunk fans. Listen, the fans are going to have their fun. Tennis has evolved. Let them have their. It's Australia, right? If they're going to have drunken fun somewhere, it's going to be the place where their accent was created by the drunken slur of the prison inmates back in the day. So let them have their fun. But what do you think about Djokovic's injury? Is this going to be something that's going to, as this tournament drags on, that it's really going to start hurting him? Because it's his leg.
If there's one court, other than U.S. Open, that an injury is going to affect you a lot, it's going to be this.
Yeah.
It's going to be the Australian Open. That court's not very forgiving. But what it does save him is that it's fast, and he's got one of the best backhand forehands ever. So he has the ability to hit winners whenever he wants and hit aces pretty much when he wants, and that can save you from moving around. That's the difference between him and Andy Roddick. That's why you can never beat him, is that he doesn't have those winners, and he doesn't have that serve. So he needs to rely on court coverage. And Djokovic, yeah, he does have great court coverage, but he doesn't need to rely on that because he can rely on just his power alone. So he might be all right.
Well, I do like Djokovic. I'm making fun of him here, but with the fans and poking some fun. But he's one of the tennis players that I do enjoy watching.
Yeah, well, he's probably going to be the best ever when everything's all said and done. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, move along real quick. We're almost done. But let's just wrap up real quick with football. We'll go over the 4 games real quick, give our winners, and and that'll be it. So let's move along real quick. We'll start with the AFC, the game that didn't happen. Obviously, shout out to Mar. I was unfortunate with what happened. I'm so happy that he's back and he's healthy again. But that game was a pretty big game that didn't get played at the end of the year, and it's almost like it was meant to be, in a sense that we get to see them again at a bigger stage. So, what do you think about that game?
Okay. If are we picking teams? We think how this is going to go. I think that the Bills are going to absolutely destroy the Bengals here, not only because of the emotional high they're on, not only because they're home. But the Bengals have just another hit to their offensive line, which, it's funny. I say the name Jonah Williams, and people last year at the end of the season would have said it's the best player on the offensive line that the Bengals have. He's a future stud. He's a bookend for a long time, right? This year, he's arguably their worst offensive lineman, which goes to show just how bad their offensive line was last year and all the upgrades that they did do. But they lost him. They've lost the two other, I think, offensive linemen at this point, two starters, or at least two tackle starters, for sure. So this is the team that going up against another team in the Bills that know how to get to the quarterback. I just think that the Bengals are going to get absolutely destroyed here, unfortunately, and that's unfortunate for Burrow. This is a team. They're really fun to watch. They're really good. Not even just on offense. Everybody's going to focus on the offense. I really like this defense. I love Von Bell. I think he's a great player. I think it was a big loss when he left New Orleans back in the day. So I'm a big fan of that team. But the Bills are going to slaughter them, unfortunately.
I disagree, but
all right.
Totally disagree. When it comes down to it, I do know the offensive line is a concern, but what's a bigger concern is Josh Allen's turnovers. This just gets unnoticed. Everyone just doesn't talk about this. Like, it's not a big deal. This guy doesn't lead the league in the turnovers. He leads in his red zone turnovers, these careless passes, careless runs. This guy he's gonna pay this week. This defensive line is looking great. I like the way they're rushing. I like the way they're covering, even on the outside. I believe that these turnovers are gonna really haunt Josh Allen this week. Joe Burrow, I'll take Joe Burrow over Josh Allen any day. And I do believe it's going to be a good game, but I believe that the turnovers are going to come to light in this game, and it's going to be too much for them to overcome. But that's me. I'm taking Cincinnati. It's always good to have a disagreement. You know
that. Yeah, damn straight. Well, okay, so it leads us into another game here that I want to focus on. I'm not really touching base on the Chiefs and the Jags. Like, unless you got something you want to touch in that game.
Well, I do want to just mention Chiefs and Jags real quick because this game, when the Chiefs and Jags played in the regular season, everyone thought this was going to be a wash. And the Jags put up a pretty good fight. I was a big critic of Trevor Lawrence. But Sunshine, Mr. Waffle Man. He is proving me wrong. Not many quarterbacks at all, let alone a third-year quarterback or second-year quarterback, could throw 4 picks in a quarter and recover the way he did. Very, very impressive. Less impressive for the Chargers, but I saw a clip where Brandon Staley and Cliff Kingsbury were in a boat in Thailand together, and they were having a great time. But that aside,
well, that's gotta be Photoshop. Staley was doing
it was Photoshop,
good.
But that's where he's going next. He'll be on the next plane out of Bangkok.
Now, yes. Anyways. Did Trevor Lawrence overcome the 4 interceptions? Yes. And am I a Trevor Lawrence naysayer? Yes. I still have to say though that he was playing a Staley-led Chargers team.
Oh God, don't give me that shit. He still came back from 27-0.
This team was up 27-0 and still passed the ball almost 60 friggin' times in a game. You can't tell me that is not a recipe for disaster.
What happens when you don't have a running back? That's what happens when Josh Kelly is your running back. Austin Eckler is not a running back. He is a hybrid, whatever he is. He's great, but he ain't a running back. You need, you lost.
We don't
Josh
know what
Kelly
they have running back, unfortunately, because they don't know how to keep with the run ever. It's always been the problem since Staley has gotten there. That has never been a problem with Chargers history. They knew how to run the ball. I know we're talking different.
Well, kind of has a problem. Philip Rivers blown it several times in the past by passing the ball too much. But
he also had LT for a little while. Right?
Yeah, what did you do with that? They had fucking nothing. So, but either way, it's okay. I just think that Jacksonville can make this way closer than people may think. That's all I can say.
Okay.
And they better watch themselves because the KC might find themselves in a football game real quick before they expect it. That's all I can say.
Well, a quick touch base, obviously, on what I think is going to be a much closer game, too. I was riding the wave last week with the Giants and thinking that there was something they could do against Minnesota. I think that they proved themselves in that game. I was excited to see what they did there. Unfortunately for our boy Cody, because he is a Vikings fan, had his little doggy all dressed up in the Vikings gear. But this week...
Oh, you should see Mitch's text. This guy was losing his goddamn mind.
I can imagine. But this week, they've got, the Eagles divisional matchup. I always chime or talk about the divisional matchups. You can never count a team out. I don't care how good another team is. I think that
Yep.
AJ Brown already talked about how he was going to the Super Bowl. I don't know if that's true or not. I saw a tweet about it. I don't know if it was his or not, or some Photoshop, of course, too. We see these too often anymore. Great that he set records over there in Philadelphia, but this is a Giants team that defensively, they are opportunistic. They have come into their
They
own.
remind me a lot of the early 2000 or 2010 teams. You know, when the way they alternate people into the defensive line. Dexter Lawrence, I didn't know much about him until the last few weeks. This guy's an animal. The way he disrupted that game like the whole time, he was phenomenal. So yeah, their defensive line's looking a lot like the 2010 days.
Yeah, and a player who I knew as a first round pick in Tennessee, and Adoree Jackson, who got cut. You know, his 5th year was rescinded, and we cut him before we could even pay him, and he went over to New York and caught the bag there. He's come into his own. This guy's covering number ones. I mean, we always knew he had the speed, but it was one of those, he seemed to get lost in the sauce for some reason. But this guy is the sauce at this point. I think it's going to be fun to see him, matched up against another former Titan in AJ Brown. And if he's not lined up against him, he's going to be up against the other track star in Devontae Smith. But I think that this is another close game. I'm not willing. What is the spread on this game right now? Do you know?
I believe I think it was 6.5.
Whatever it is, I'm taking the Giants as far as the spread. I don't know what money line I'm going to leave it, but this is going to be a very close game. And this is the game, I think this specifically, forget whatever happens the rest of the season, this is specifically the game that is going to get Daniel Jones and Barkley their second contracts here.
Yeah. Okay, then.
Yeah.
It's 7.5 is the spread. Well, let's just disagree. Let's disagree again then. This is fantastic. So the Giants are going to find out real quick that playing the Minnesota defense is like playing Pop Warner compared to what they're going to play against the Eagles defense. And if you think that you're going to win a game with Daniel Jones as your motherfucking leading rusher and not Saquon Barkley, smoke another one. Because Daniel Jones played the best Daniel Jones is ever going to play last week. That's never going to happen again. Okay, so he may play all right, but what we just saw last week, he looked like Michael Vick running the read option, juking guys, doing this and that.
That's what he did in college. This is what he.
Yeah,
this is
I know
what
that's what he did in college.
Right?
What, for Duke?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this ain't going to happen again. Jalen Hurts, I don't know exactly what his status is. I know he's going to play.
He's playing.
He's always playing, but is he 100%? Probably not. But it's going to be a real rude awakening for the Giants this week. I respect what Brian Dable's done. I respect what Wake Martindale's done and their nice little bromance they got going on over there. But it comes to an end this week. I think the Eagles win big. But that's just mine.
All right, and then I'll give you your 30 seconds here to talk about the Cowboys and 49ers matchup. It's a beautiful game. I still think Dak Prescott is Tannehill 2.0. I'm going to keep saying it. This is and I will say that
what he just did last week will never happen for Ryan Tannehill. So let's just get a grip here.
Stop. Now, but I do want to say though that I'm staking my name in the sand here with Rand Carthon going over to Tennessee. I don't think there's any connection there for Trey, even though everybody wants to try and put that happening right now. This is Brock Purdy's team until he does something to lose that spot. So we know that this is not Jimmy's team ever again, and this is. I really don't think this is going to be Trey's team either. I think this is going forward Brock Purdy's team. So go get him, kid. Go get him.
Yeah, well, 100%. Last week, we kind of talked about it that maybe Brock Purdy might, look like a rookie, and he did. That first half of that game against Seattle, he looked like a rookie. Not a bad rookie, but he looked like a rookie. And, what did the guy do? He just came out in the second half and just blew the house off the place, seeing the praise from Fred Warner, the praise from George Kittle. This guy's already got he's already owns the locker room. He's not just managing the game, he's winning the game.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're 11-0, 12-0, whatever they are between him and Jimmy, but to see how much more dynamic this offense is with Brock Purdy and with the amount of weapons they have, the way he distributes the ball to all of them is just fantastic, and still allowing Christian McCaffrey to have a 100-yard rushing game in the process.
Yep. Fantastic.
Dak Prescott on the other side, kudos to Dak. That was the best game I've ever seen him play in my life. He was on fire. Everything, the passes were on the money. He was leading everybody. He was seeing the field well. He ran when he needed to. I'm not trying to toot his own horn, but he did play an absolutely fantastic game. I expected Brady on the other side. Yeah, he waited till the fourth quarter to just start trying, apparently. Imagine he had hit that ball to Mike Evans down the sideline after the onside kick, how crazy that could have gotten. Yeah. But it didn't work out. All in all, it's not like the Bucs have a bad defense. Dallas did look good, but the buck stops here. There's no way I'm going against San Fran in Candlestick there, wherever they play now. And it was a good run. But I know that picture I sent you, Jerry Jones. God, I hope you guys found a kicker that could make an extra point, because that was absolutely hilarious.
Well, Rick, you said two lines there. I just want to focus on a player that I think that we have finally seen. Everyone wants to talk about the Tom Brady here. The loss in the sauce. I said that a few minutes ago. You talk about the buck stops here. You talk about a great run, a long run, and everything. We've probably seen the last of Julio Jones at this point, right? This is it for him. We got a player that right now he is number 2 on the list as far as yards per game. He was over 100 yards per game until he got signed by Tennessee, and he had that stretch of injuries and not playing, only playing for 4 snaps. And then, of course, what happened in Tampa.
You can't stay healthy. You can't stay healthy, and that's the problem, right? And you've seen flashes this year. Tom wanted to give him the ball.
Yeah.
He really did. Like, he tried to give him the ball several times. They drew plays up for him. And when the ball is in his vicinity, he rarely drops it still.
Yeah.
But he's kind of, he reminds me kind of the way Des Bryant was at the end.
Yeah.
It just can't get open very easily. It needs to be a perfect pass all the time. And every time you go out for a pass and you hit the ground, you pull up hurt. Yeah. Every time, even if it's little. Yeah. There's a limp. There's a quiver, like something every time. Every time the ball goes to him, unless it's a clean catch in the open field, he's coming up limping every time. It's the end of him. He needs to.
I was mentioning his stats. Why? Like, he was over 100 yards a game, Rick. He is now at about 87 yards a game, so he's still higher than Megatron. I can't remember who he's just below as far as second, but he lost that number 1. I don't think the players played it for stats anymore. Obviously, this late in your career,
we wanted a Super Bowl. Yeah,
play for Super Bowls, but I also think that you don't add anything to those Super Bowl contenders anymore. I think you got to look yourself in the mirror.
If Tom Brady can't make you look good still, then you probably time to retire.
That's it, right? So, that being said, Rick, I mean, it was another great show with you, man. I don't know, is there anything last things you want to cover?
No, I think we did everything today really well, man. Covered a lot of stuff, so we'll be back next week and recap some of the stuff we talked about today. But yeah, it's been a great show, my friend.
All right, well, you enjoy your football weekend, your UFC weekend. It's back finally. No more holidays. We can kind of get to that UFC grind again. So I'm excited for that. All right. So Ricky, you have some fun of late, and hopefully you're not staying up too late for those Australian Opens, right? Is the boss getting a call at 8 a.m. tomorrow or what?
Hopefully not, Jesus. But get your ass online and let's play some video games.